When was the last time you turned on the radio? When it comes to listening to the radio, times have changed. So the question is, did video kill the radio star? Or did the Walkman or the iPod or Spotify have something to do with it? The beginning of radio. The idea of a radio, or a wireless telegraph, first emerged in the 1890s when Italian inventor Guglielmo Marconi sent out a wireless Morse code message to someone over a kilometer away. In 1914, a Canadian named Reginald Fessenden helped build alternators that were able to transmit voices and music thousands of miles away. This was the precursor to AM radio. Despite this breakthrough technology, many were doubtful about the radio, but people quickly realized that radio was a great way to get information across to the general public. And in the early 1920s, the first radio news was broadcast in the United States on the station 8MK in Detroit. Before television, there was the golden age of radio. While the first radio stations focused on broadcast news, serial stories, radio plays, and speeches, radio soon became a center for entertainment that would come to include music, sports, and weather reports, things that were usually communicated through print. Compared to how we receive our info today, this was groundbreaking back then. This change in radio programming saw the sales of radio skyrocket, and it became a must-have item in every household. Families listened to comedy shows like Amos and Andy and music from jazz artists like Duke Wellington. But up until the 1930s, the radio was something you enjoyed at home. It was big and it was stationary. So how did we get from sitting around the living room listening to Chattanooga Choo Choo by the Glenn Miller Orchestra on the radio to having access to millions of songs right at our fingertips wherever we go? It started with the car radio. You know, that thing in the middle of your dash with knobs and buttons that you probably no longer use? Well, the first commercial in-car radio was made in 1930, revolutionizing how people listen to the radio. And so began the days of driving down the highway with the windows rolled down and the music blasting the tunes of the day. The 1950s. Velvet-collared jackets, greased-back hair, and television. Welcome to the 1950s. During the 50s, the use of the radio was overshadowed by the introduction of television. Television, with its moving pictures, became more mainstream, bringing new competition to radio for not just advertising dollars, but also as a popular means of entertainment. Now, radio serials, talk shows, news, and weather forecasts were all being shown on the television screen, so the radio was slightly pushed to the side. Yet even with the television taking some of its spotlight, the radio was still a large part of people's lives, because that's where they got their music. The 50s were the decade that saw the rise of rock and roll. The term rock and roll was actually popularized on the radio by American disc jockey and promoter Alan Freed in 1951. It was during this decade of music and radio that Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, shocked the world with his good looks, catchy tunes, and controversial dance moves. So what was radio like in the 50s? Well, if you tuned in as a teenager, you'd be listening to Elvis hits like Heartbreak Hotel and Jailhouse Rock, or traditional pop artists like Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, and Peggy Lee. Or how about some country music with Johnny Cash? And we can't forget the R&B that emerged from the jazz of the 40s with Sam Cooke, Ray Charles, and Fats Domino. All in all, the music scene on the radio covered a wide gamut of upbeat sounds that made music what it is today. Of course, the 1950s was also when television became a popular medium. So how did it affect radio? Well, radio was no longer the main source of all entertainment. Radio began focusing on talk shows, news, sports broadcasting, and, of course, music. To give you an idea of just how much television altered radio, consider the numbers. In the year 1950, only 20% of American homes had a TV set. 10 years later, 90% of families in America owned a TV set, and some even had a color TV. And so, the 1950s marked the end of the golden age of radio. The 1960s. The 1960s saw the expansion of FM radio, a method of radio broadcasting that sounded better, clearer, and allowed people to enjoy music with higher quality sound than AM radio. FM radio resulted in more channels and more program variety, and with the spread of portable transistor radios, basically little pocket radios, and car radios, the radio became a portable form of entertainment that people could listen to on the go. While it wasn't your Spotify playlist playing in your AirPods, you could have music playing anywhere. You could bring the radio to the beach or the park, something you couldn't do with a TV. In fact, by 1967, music took over 90% of all radio programming. The 60s saw a rise in devoted jazz, pop, rock, and folk music listeners. With the Vietnam War and other political movements, the younger generation didn't want to abide by the same conservative standards that their parents grew up with. They wanted world peace and freedom. That's why the Beatles were a frequently played band on the radio. The Beatles' personas, with their long hair and preaching of love and peace, captured exactly what the 60s were all about. In the 60s, all you needed was love. While talk shows still frequented radio broadcasts, they weren't as common anymore. Times, again, were changing. Take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss a video. Thanks so much. Now let's keep going. The 1970s. Bell-bottoms, the rise of disco, and the dancing queen. The far-out 70s were a time for staying alive. By 1970, FM radio stations were increasing their ratings in major big city markets, with FM listening surging past AM. On FM, you could listen to anything from classical music to the latest popular songs of the day. Although the songs you heard the most often on the radio in the 70s might have been influenced somewhat by a bit of a scandal. You see, in the 60s and 70s, the station DJs pretty much owned the airwaves. Their job was to choose hit singles from a large collection of songs and albums and rotate them on the radio until they got stuck in listeners' heads. With such an influx of singles being released by hundreds of labels, it became quite the competition to keep up. Record labels wanted their singles to be played by the public's favorite and most popular DJs, but they couldn't always get what they wanted by making a mere phone call. So that's when the concept of payola became popular. Payola is when labels would give DJs an extra push to play their records. Labels would actually discreetly stuff cash in their records, essentially bribing DJs to play their songs. Payola wasn't a new concept to the radio world, but it definitely took hold of DJs in the 1970s more than before, with some DJs expecting at least $50 per week in bribes to play a song, and some demanding even more than that. And that's in 1970s dollars. Some DJs spoke out against the practice, but hey, at the end of the day, as ABBA would say, it's all about the money, money, money. The decline of the popularity of radio can be tied to many things, with one of those being what some may call the first iPod, the Sony Walkman. In the late 70s, Sony revolutionized the way we listen to music. This portable cassette player allowed music lovers to listen to their favorite tunes wherever and whenever they wanted. Gone were the days of having to sit near a radio waiting for your favorite song to come on. Now it was possible to walk around the streets or ride the bus, all while your favorite band was playing in your ears. Now, by comparison, with phones in our pockets and a million songs at our disposal, this doesn't seem like a big deal. But back then, the Walkman was brand new and was all the rage. However, Walkmans really took off in the 80s. Radio in the 1980s. Big hair, metal, pop, punk, and MTV. This retro decade still makes a frequent comeback even in today's modern world. The 80s saw the introduction of satellite radio, which helped keep the listening medium alive. But not for long, as even this new form of radio soon had to compete with the emergence of MTV and video stars. MTV, or music television, launched in 1981, ironically with the broadcast of the iconic song "Video Killed the Radio Star" by the Buggles. But did video, in fact, kill the radio star? It seems like the answer is yes. Well, sort of. Radio didn't disappear altogether, but it once again got knocked down another rung on the entertainment ladder. In the early days of MTV, the station format mainly consisted of playing music videos that were provided for free by record companies to promote album sales. But later, MTV also started airing non-music programming, such as reality shows like The Osbournes and The Hills. MTV was able to take music and make it more interactive, hooking their audience, and perhaps drawing them even further away from the radio in the process. Listeners were no longer satisfied with simply listening to their favorite music stars when they had access to seeing their idols on TV. Idols like Madonna, Billy Idol, Prince, and Michael Jackson, and there was no going back. But it wasn't just video that killed the radio star. The next decade would introduce another new hurdle: the internet. The 1990s. Denim, Spice Girls, and the internet. 90s kids will surely remember this era. The music scene during the 90s changed from the pop and rock that was famous in the 80s. Teen pop, rap, electronic music, and alternative rock became more mainstream. Mariah Carey was named the Artist of the Decade, and the rise of grunge, led by bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam, were taking their place next to boy bands like the Backstreet Boys. But where was radio in all this? During the 90s, radio had two new additional formats: internet radio and pirate radio. Internet radio, which involves streaming, is still used today. You may have listened to music on iHeartRadio or TuneIn Radio, but it was pioneered in 1993 by Carl Malmud, who launched the first computer radio talk show, Internet Talk Radio. From there, internet radio and streaming took off to even include live concerts. But what happened if you couldn't find your favorite songs on the traditional radio stations or internet radio? Pirate radio popped up everywhere in the 90s. A pirate radio signal is a radio station that doesn't have a valid license, but broadcasts anyway. In the UK, over 500 illegal radio stations broadcasted music that was somewhat disliked by the general public, or stuff parents wouldn't want their kids to listen to. Either way, it was really at the beginning of the 2000s when the decline of radio started to accelerate. The 2000s. Internet radio is basically one of the first streaming services, but the 2000s brought on a whole new world, the online world. Radio certainly took a hit from the internet and the new technologies that emerged in the early 2000s. Technology like the iPod. In October 2001, Apple launched its first portable music player. You may remember it, a small portable device with a mechanical scroll wheel and up to 5 gigabytes of storage space. Compared to our smartphones that have hundreds of gigabytes of storage space, the iPod doesn't seem all that impressive today. But back then, this compact device could easily fit in your pocket, as opposed to a bulky Walkman. It was so popular, 38 million of them were sold in the year 2001 alone. From there, finding ways to make listening to music easy and hassle-free exploded. From Spotify to Apple Music and iTunes, radio was kind of pushed to the back burner as music listening evolved and improved. With these new gadgets and platforms, the number of radio listeners has slowly been declining. If you had to choose between listening to the radio in your car with spotty reception as you drive through rural areas, or listening to your favorite songs and personal playlists on your phone via a Bluetooth connection, the choice seems pretty obvious. So while video may not have killed the radio star just yet, the internet and smartphones are definitely another reason why people are turning the radio off. Thanks for watching. Please like this video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell.